You're listening to Three Things to Know with Stephanie Haney, with experts and insiders on what you need to know in Northeast Ohio.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Three Things to Know podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Haney, and as always, thrilled to have you here with me. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening to what's going on here in Northeast Ohio. This is an exciting time. We are looking at the 2022 Winter Olympic Games coming up in Beijing. Got a great guest for you today. There is a member of the very elite club of Olympic gold medalists that we will be talking to. I am talking about Katie Nageotte, our Northeast Ohio native who won the gold medal in the women's pole vault this past summer in those delayed Tokyo 2020 Summer Olympics, the ones that happened in 2021. We'll be talking with her, but before we get to that, let's talk some fast facts about these Olympics coming up. Now, you might be wondering, you may have heard something about the U.S. boycotting the Beijing Olympics because we are still in the midst of a global pandemic. Well, the Biden administration did say that they were announcing a diplomatic boycott of the 2022 Winter Olympic Games. But all that means is that U.S. government officials won't be going. Athletes can still go. They'll still be representing the United States. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about some interesting things you might not know about the Beijing Winter Olympics. Did you know that Beijing is the first city to host both a Summer Olympics and now a Winter Olympic Games? It is true. They hosted the 2008 Summer Olympic Games, and they will actually be reusing 5 of the venues that they used for that Summer Olympic Games. I like that idea because, so often we hear about these cities that host the Olympics and then they've got these incredible facilities that you have to build and they just don't go out, they just don't get used. So Beijing now, 14 years later, being able to reuse some of those facilities. I think that's pretty cool. There are 7 new events that you can take a look at this Winter Olympic Games. And by the way, that's led to an increase in female athletes, these new events. So there's the women's monobob event. That's the bobsleigh. There's also big air freestyle skiing for men and women. That sounds like that would be very entertaining to watch. Anything with big air in it, that's going to be very extreme, right? And then there are mixed male and female teams in 4 sports: sport track speed skating, ski jumping, ski aerials, and snowboard cross. And, remember I told you that that's led to an increase, these 7 new sports in females participating in the Olympic Games. There were 41% of all the athletes were females in the 2018 Winter Games. Now this year, we're up to just more than 45%. Of course, we want to see that get closer and closer to that 50%. We would love to see that equity there, but closer and closer still, more than 45%. And speaking of female athletes, our guest today is the incredible Katie Nageotte. She is just a very impressive human. She's from here in Northeast Ohio. She was born in Cleveland, early years in the Cleveland area, and then, hometown for her is Olmsted Falls, and we were rooting her on all the way through those Summer Olympic Games just a few short months ago, just, 6-7 months ago now. And she's talking with us today. She's going to share with us some perspective on what these athletes might be thinking, what she's doing now. And I know if you're like me, you're probably wondering, what do Olympic athletes do when they're not at the Olympics? Because the Olympics only happen, the Winter and Summer Olympics respectively, every 4 years. That's a lot of time. It's a lot of time in between Olympic Games to, be doing stuff. What does that look like? So she's going to share a little bit about that. She's going to let us know what she has coming up because she actually has just started her next season. There is no rest for the wicked. All right, let's bring her in right now. Let's hear what Katie Nageotte has to say. Katie, thank you so much for being here on the 3 Things to Know podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And this is, of course, we've been, excited to talk to you since the Olympic win this summer, and a huge feature for you that just came out, Sports Illustrated 50 Fittest Athletes of 2022. How are you feeling about that?
It's crazy. And my coach actually said this, but I'm somebody that throughout a lot of my career had struggled with body image issues and felt like I wasn't ever fit enough. So then, and in recent years, I was able to really kind of accept my body for what it was and just eat to fuel myself and train the right way. And then my body kind of shaped itself as a result of those things, my goals. The body was just kind of an after effect, I guess. And so to be one of the fittest athletes is crazy. The way it's come full circle is just very surreal, but I was so excited.
It's an incredible honor. Congratulations to you. And that's something too that I think so many people can relate to. It can be very hard to think of food as fuel for your body. That can be very complicated. Yes. What I saw you post something that I thought made a lot of sense based on what it looks like they look for in this feature. And it was about becoming a better pole vaulter by becoming a better athlete and doing your sprinting and living and just the whole well-roundness of it. So that seems to be something that they really focused on in this feature.
Yes. And I was happy that was how they approached it, is that, the pole vaulting, obviously pole vaulting is how you get better. But once you get to a certain point, we're fine tuning things technically, but it is how fast, how strong, how powerful can I be? And you do all of that in the weight room. You do that on the track without a pole in your hands. And so I was glad that they showed that side of it.
Now, when this feature came out, did you have any kind of a heads up at all, or were you completely surprised?
So I feel like I'm cheating. I know one of the women that's on the panel. Granted, she did nominate me last year and I didn't get it. So, but she submitted my name and she told me that she submitted my name and she was like, if you don't get it, I swear I'm going to be so upset. So I had an idea that I might, and I hoped that, with what I did this summer, that would maybe help my chances, but
maybe, yeah. A gold medal might help there.
Yeah.
I might be, I don't know if I am or not, maybe not. I might be breaking some news to you. I was on my way into the WKY studio today downtown. I was driving the Shoreway, and it's no Sports Illustrated 50 Fittest Athletes of 2022, but you, my lady, have prime real estate. You are the Union Home Mortgage banners driving right in down the Shoreway by the football stadium.
I didn't know if those were up yet. I got the picture of them and I didn't think I was allowed to say anything until it came out. So, you are the first one to tell me that that's actually up. I'm very excited.
I was so thrilled. I saw that driving into the station today, and I was like, I can't wait to tell Katie when we talk today that I saw those. That's awesome. Very cool.
Thank you.
And, prime real estate there, you're up there with, obviously, incredible athlete in your own right. Bernie Kosar's on there, a couple other people. Very big deal.
Yes. I mean, it's crazy to think that I'm even in the same conversation as Bernie and Denzel. And, it's just, but I'm just excited to take it all in and just be a part of whatever people want me to be a part of.
Well, it is definitely a good time to be Katie Nageotte, and we are so proud of you here in Northeast Ohio. You are the best pole vaulter, a gold medal pole vaulter. In fact, the finals for the pole vault, so interesting. Can you sort of walk us through, for people who aren't exactly aware, how you get to that point where you're winning that gold medal in the pole vault finals in these delayed 2020 Summer Olympics?
Yeah. So the way it works, each country has their own way of selecting a team, but with the US, it's just a straight tryout, and there is a height standard that's set worldwide. So that is the only kind of regulation that each country has to have. They, their athletes have to either have jumped that high or be a certain world ranking. And so with the United States, you just have to try out. So that's just US nationals serves as the Olympic trials. And so then I was top 3 that day. I made it to the prelim of the Olympics. And so all 30 something of us go at once. There's 2 pits that go at once, and you get 3 attempts. You get 3 misses, consecutive misses at each height. So once you miss 3 in a row, you're out. And so they kept having us jump until there were 12 of us left, or this year it was 15 because of the rain delay during the prelims. I was lucky. I got my one and only jump in before the rain hit. And so thankfully I only had to jump once and then, move on a couple of days later to the final. So there's, 15 of us. You get to choose the height you want to come in at. At the Olympic final, the opening height is pretty high. So I came in at the opening height. I struggled a little bit. My quad was really tight during the warm-ups, and that really distracted me from having the warm-ups that I knew I needed to have. And so those first couple jumps were kind of serving as jumps that I probably would have had in the warm-up, kind of figuring it out. And so it was a little bit of a rocky start, but once I found my jump, it's just, like I said, you get 3 misses in a row. So I had 2 misses at my opening height. I cleared it on my 3rd attempt. That resets at the next bar. I missed my 1st attempt again, which it was just annoying because that's not usually how it goes for me. But that's sport, and it's how you adapt in those situations. So I made an adjustment that I probably wouldn't normally have made. I moved my starting mark closer on the runway, and I'm not going to get into the physics of pole vault, but that was the adjustment I needed to make. It wasn't something I would have normally done, but that was just reading the situation, kind of dealing in reality, if you will, and just making that change. And then after that, I was making everything pretty much first attempt after that. And it got down to the final 3 of us, and I cleared my winning bar on my 2nd attempt. And I was very excited because, in all honesty, it didn't feel like a great jump. Technically, as soon as I took off the ground and started to swing, it just felt kind of weird. As a pole vaulter, what feels good and fluid and what just feels a little off. And so I think part of my reaction was just a little bit of shock as I was falling too, and as well as being ecstatic because I knew that was a bar that would be hard to beat. And yeah, then the other 2 girls didn't clear it, and that was how that day went. So
it was very dramatic watching it here at home. I'll tell you what, because I know, I
Yeah.
didn't know necessarily all of the rules behind, you get those 3 consecutive misses and that's it. I knew
Yeah.
people were having a hard time with it, and then you cleared it, and it was like, oh, and then the other people didn't, and then you won the gold, and that's so incredible, and so many talented people from around the world. So I have to ask, once you did know who you were competing against, was there anyone who you were particularly nervous about or concerned about as a competitor?
I think really any of the top 4 of us in the final could have taken it that day. I mean, all 4 of us. It was the reigning Olympic champion, who is always a competitor. She always shows up on the day, and she did that day. She had a great day. The world champion from 2019, the girl from Russia, she is phenomenal. She cleared the bar that would have taken it back from me before. And she's very clutch. So I knew she was going to be gunning for it. And Holly, the British girl, she had a great year. She had cleared 490 that year. So really, I was nervous until it was over because I knew any one of those girls could bring it on that day. And that's what's crazy and just kind of fun about the Olympics, is that we've all worked so hard, and it really just, it could have been anybody's day that day. So the fact that I won is just nuts.
And it was your day. Yes, that's right. It was your day. And I know you said you were shocked in the moment. Anything else you can tell us about the way you were feeling, what the first thoughts were that came through your head?
I think the first thoughts were just like, no way. Like, this isn't it. There's no way that I just won the biggest meet that we have. That, like, it was very surreal. And I think too, having no fans there didn't affect me in a negative way, but I do think that comprehending the moment and how big it was, there was a bit of a disconnect. I knew what it was. I felt nervous that meet in a way that I've never felt nervous during a competition from beginning to end before. It was different, and obviously celebrating, I knew, but it still has taken me a very long time to fully sink in that, because you watch the movies. I watched Miracle 100 times, and when they finally win, you're just bursting into tears. And I had that, but again, when it's happening to me, it's like, no, like, there has to be another Olympic Games somewhere where all the best athletes are at. There's no way I'm in the middle of this. But so it was just a whirlwind of emotions, and yeah.
Well, an incredible moment for sure. And, of course, you said in that moment, there weren't fans there. We are in the middle of this ongoing COVID-19 situation, which is still a factor right now. But How did you, was there a particular way that you celebrated once you were able to get home?
I mean, just being with my family. I feel like I've been so lucky to have a lot of incredible celebrations in different ways. Like when I got home, they had a little parade for me, which is funny because when I was talking with my mom and, she's talking to people and she's like, oh, do you want a parade? I'm like, I don't need a parade. We don't need to block off streets. Like no one's going to come out to that. Like, don't worry about it. We can just do the meet and greet, which was awesome. I got 2 parades. So I'm, it was just so cool to see the support. And you just don't think that people are going to show up for you. It's very surreal. And I mean, getting to talk to the Browns, getting to throw out a first pitch, getting to go to the Cavs game at courtside seats, all these things that I grew up a Cleveland sports fan. So getting to have those moments with my favorite teams is just, yeah. But what's funny is in the moment, at immediately after I won, I ate dinner alone in the dining hall at 1 a.m. I FaceTimed my family, but all the other athletes are sleeping. They're getting ready to compete. And then I just went to bed and laid in bed. I didn't really fall asleep, but, just on my phone, seeing, people congratulate me, but it was just very low key. And I don't think what people would expect immediately post, because my coach couldn't even come into the village. They were so locked down with COVID stuff. He was at a different hotel with the other coaches and I was in the village. And so it was probably not what people would have expected, but yeah.
I bet not. And you have a certain amount of perspective that is it's a very elite club, the perspective that you have. And now we're looking toward the Beijing Winter Olympics coming up. Now we are in 2022. So what do you think those athletes are thinking right now as they prepare to compete?
I'm going to be honest, I don't envy them because I know that those nerves, and obviously they're excited, but it is a lot of nerves. There's a lot of emotion, and I personally hate that feeling. I love it in some ways, but the feeling of that ball of nerves is just, they are ready and they are excited, but they are nervous. And so I just take a moment. When I went to Tokyo, I really just tried as best as I could to look at it as I'm at the Olympics. Like no one can take this from me, no matter how it goes. Just enjoy this for what it is. I really tried to be as positive as possible with it. And I think if the athletes can go in with that sort of attitude, it really will help them. I know there are a lot of returning Olympians who probably don't need this advice, but for the ones that are new at it, just enjoy it for all that it's worth. Soak it all in, take it seriously, but just have fun with it.
Well, there are some returning athletes. Our Northeast Ohio representative is a returning Olympian, but it's been 4 years. So I'm sure, it's good to kind of get these vibes out there at least. So our Northeast Ohio person who's competing in the Winter Olympics, it's defending Olympic snowboard slope style gold medalist, Gerard.
Yay.
So that's who we're rooting on. That's our Northeast Ohio person.
Yay. Good luck.
Yes. Good luck to Red. We will be keeping an eye on that for sure. As I said, 4 years between the Olympics. It was 5 years waiting for this one. And a lot of people wonder, what do you do between Olympic Games? What is that like? What does competing look like between the games?
So with track and field, we have a full professional circuit. It's called the Diamond League, and we compete almost year round. I start competing in January and I will finish out in September. The first couple of months will be an indoor season, and then April, give or take, until September is our Diamond League season. And the Diamond League is pretty much our version of the NFL or the NBA, where like the best athletes in the world compete at different meets around the world against each other. And so the women that I competed with at the Olympics are the women that I compete with all the time. And maybe that was part of like the disconnect, is you feel like it's people that you never see, these athletes, you don't know what to expect from them, but these are women that I, stay in the same hotels with. We eat meals together, we travel together. So yeah, it just, I totally lost my train of thought, but
oh no, I mean you explained it beautifully. Thank
Sorry.
you for making that comparison to,
Yeah.
like the NFL or the NBA. So my next
Yes.
question there is, when you're in this Diamond League, now are you competing as an individual? Are you part of a USA team at that point? How does that look?
It's pretty individual. I represent Nike, and so there are shoe sponsorships, and that's kind of the team that you represent, if you will. But then when I go to World Championships, if I make those teams, Olympics, if you make those teams, that's when you compete for Team USA, and that's why the tryouts for us are pretty much immediately before the event, like a month, maybe 2 months before. And it's just whoever's the best of the best, because it's not really like you need a team, chemistry, so to say, for it's just individuals going out competing their best. And we all train in different spots. So yeah, we're all individual until, major events like Olympics, Worlds, Pan Ams, etc.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for breaking that down. Now, speaking of
Yep.
doing your best at these different events, you recently had a personal best in Reno. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Reno it's the National Pole Vault Summit. It's as a pole vaulter, it's one of the coolest meets you can ever go to, because they'll fly in the elites. We compete on Friday, and then hundreds of high school, college, masters, basically anyone that's not at the elite level flies in and competes Saturday, just on 15 different pits. There's competition after competition, and it's the one place we really feel like, we're appreciated. I mean, most people don't understand track and field, let alone pole vault. So it's just a really fun environment to be in. The next day, the elites help with those competitions and will help run the pits. And so it's just a fun way to meet the kids. And, it's really awesome. So I was very excited to do well there. It's a personal best from a shorter approach. So it's not my all-time personal best, but we count our steps as we run down the runway. We have a certain number so that we kind of know exactly where to start from, since our takeoff point has to be at a specific spot. And so it was a 5 left approach, and that was about, just to give an idea, it was like 66 feet, give or take.
Okay.
And so I was very excited, because that height is pretty high for that approach. I was really excited. I won the competition, and I think, having come off of the year that I did, I am struggling a little bit with just the motivation. It's my entire career, there's been this urgency of the Olympics, and pole vault by itself is really anxiety inducing for me. It's not a stress reliever, it is a stressor. It's a little scary for me. And so that urgency of, okay, the Olympics is coming up, you have to get this done, is now gone. And so I'm navigating pole vaulting without that. And it's been interesting. It's definitely not the best vaulting training of my life. I know physically I am ready to go, and obviously that meet proved that. And I'm excited to know that, okay, even if I haven't had my best practices ever, I'm still a competitor, and I still have it. But so yeah, it's been interesting kind of navigating that. And then going into that meet, I really didn't have any expectations. I changed my approach a little bit. I used to do like this skip in start into my first step, and now I just have a static start, which probably sounds weird after the year that I had, but
That would be my question, is why you just won a gold medal. Some people might wonder,
right.
Why change anything?
Yeah, you are not the only person that's asked me that. But sometimes when I skip out, I fall forward at the waist a little too much, and then have a hard time getting tall to plant. And long story short, it was just giving me more problems than helping me. And just because something has served you in the past doesn't mean it's going to be good for you forever. And I have learned enough in this sport to know when to try and push through something, and when to just say, okay, let's try something else. And I really do love the new start. And I think that's another reason I'm so excited about how that meet went is that, tied my all-time personal best from that approach with a new start. So technically with a little less speed. And so, yeah, there were a lot of reasons I was happy with how that went. And again, just navigating, training right now is different, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Sure. Definitely what an interesting space to be in. And I really do love what you just said there about what has always been done doesn't need to continue to be done. Just because it has worked doesn't mean something can't be better. And obviously you continue to grow as an athlete. You're definitely a master of your body. Just hearing you talk about how you felt like something was a bit off on that, and you could feel how things were in the motion of, and I just say, I am endlessly impressed. I mean, you talk about it being a stressor for you, pole vaulting, just the thought of running and hurling your body through the air with that little stick and then that is terrifying.
Yeah, and I think that I know that, like, logically, and so I want to fight myself. I feel like I sometimes self-sabotage, and I make it scarier than it really needs to be when we break it down. And the way that we vault is actually very safe, but I kind of make it this bigger emotional thing. And my coach has done a very good job of helping me navigate through that and dial it into the cues, but again, without that urgency and that motivation of like Olympics. It's different. And I feel like I'm almost a little too relaxed, because coming off the games, it was like, I did it. I don't ever have to prove myself again. This is great. And now I'm like, I still want to prove myself. Where's that motivation? So, I mean, it's still there, because I know if I wasn't motivated, I wouldn't want to go to any of the practices. I wouldn't want to go to the lifting or the sprinting or anything. And I do. It's just, it's different, and we're figuring it out. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I look forward to seeing what you do with it. And I have to ask too, you say, when you have your eye on something big as the Olympics, that's a great motivator. You're finding different motivations now. And you did mention there are other big events. I think
yes.
Some other ones, there are some coming up this year, right? What are you working towards right now?
Yes. So there is a World Championships in the United States. And I think other than the Olympic Games, competing at Worlds in your home country is about as good as it gets. So I'm sure as it gets closer, that will not be an issue. And I took shots at the American record and the world record last year, and I really feel like I am capable of doing that physically. And so those are definitely motivating as well. So that absolutely, there are things that I'm working towards and things that I'm excited towards.
Well, we will certainly be rooting you on here in the hometown of Northeast Ohio now. So, Katie, we want to be able to follow you while you're on all of these adventures, when you're, here and there and bopping all around. So where can people find you? Let them know on social media so we can make sure we don't miss anything.
Yes. So Instagram is probably the best place. That's where I post the most and updates about where I'm going. It's the letter K, the letter T, Nago 13. I do have a Facebook page as well. I usually just transfer all that over. Katie Nageotte pole vault. I am on TikTok. It's just Katie Nageotte, but that's a little more just like fun stuff. It's not as much, following exactly what I'm doing. But yeah,
we love the fun stuff. We're here for the TikTok. Absolutely.
Great.
You have a new TikTok follower. It's coming literally in 2 seconds as soon as we get off this call.
Fabulous.
All right, Katie, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us today, sharing your very special perspective on what it's like heading into an Olympic Games. We really appreciate your time. Thanks for being with us here on the 3 Things to Know podcast.
Thank you.
I knew it before we had time to talk with her, but now I am solidly in the Katie Nageotte fan club. What an incredible woman, and how amazing for her to open up with us and be so vulnerable and share with us what she's feeling, how she's, having new challenges now, how she's in this new place in her career that she's never experienced before, and sharing what those challenges are and how she's growing as a human, working through those things. Just absolutely incredible, and very much look forward to following her throughout this entire season, heading to those big finals here in the U.S. That's huge. And following her on TikTok, because I do love a good follow, for sure. We'll get to our good follow for this week, by the way, in just a moment. But first, let's tell you what you need to know here in Northeast Ohio to follow the Olympic Games, which kick off on February 4th and they run through February 20th. But here's the interesting thing. Here's what you definitely need to know. Beijing is 13 hours ahead of us here in the Eastern time zone in Cleveland. So that means when it's 6 p.m. here, it's 7 a.m. tomorrow there. It's later. It's the next day. So what that means is primetime coverage right here on NBC on Channel 3 starts Thursday, February 3rd, even though the Olympics don't officially start until February 4th, but it'll already be February 4th in Beijing. So, and there will be a live broadcast of the opening ceremony. That'll be on Friday, and that'll continue through Sunday, February 20th. But here's something else that's interesting that you need to know. And this is pretty typical with the Olympic Games. They have to get started with some of these qualifying events a little bit ahead of time. So the first events for the 2022 Winter Olympic Games will actually start on Wednesday, February 2nd. That'll be with curling mixed doubles, and then women's freestyle skiing and ice hockey will follow. That'll be on Thursday, February 3rd. And then the ice hockey preliminaries are scheduled for the morning of Friday, February 4th. That's when the games officially get underway. So keep that in mind. And for all of your, Olympics headquarters, as far as WKYC is concerned, you can go to wkyc.com/Olympics. We've got all the information there. And again, we are going to have all the coverage that you need on Channel 3 right here on NBC. And we mentioned this while we were talking to Katie. If you want to really follow along with our Northeast Ohio athlete that's competing for another gold medal, his name is Red Gerard. You can find him on Instagram at Red Gerard, REDGERARD. He is from Rocky River. He is 21 years old, and he is competing in the slope style snowboard event. He won the gold medal at the 2018 Winter Olympics in the slope style event. So what that is, that's a course with different obstacles. So you're looking at rails, you're looking at jumps, you're looking at different kinds of terrain. And how that differs is, many people when they think of Olympic snowboarding, they think of Shaun White. And this will be his 5th Olympics, by the way. He has basically made a career out of going to the Olympics. And his event is half-pipe snowboarding. So, a half-pipe is just like you see a half-pipe in skateboarding or, rollerblading or whatever. It's a half of a pipe. It's like a half of a tube of snow. He's a 3-time gold medalist in that. And that score on the half-pipe, that's based on tricks you do, how high you get in the air, doing tricks back-to-back without breaks, those kinds of things. Red Gerard is the slope style. So going down a course, hitting those things and those different tricks and those different obstacles. He's raced here in Ohio. Right now, of course, he's living in Silverthorne, Colorado. Got to do his training there. We don't necessarily have the slopes for the training here in the Northeast Ohio area. And he's actually got his own mini snowboarding park in his backyard with a rope tow. How nice is that? Just tow yourself right on back up, get that snowboarding in. Listen, I'm a very amateur snowboarder. I actually just got my own snowboard, so this is something that I will be keenly watching. I love the Winter Olympics. They have so much cool stuff. I do really love watching the figure skating. That's absolutely beautiful, but I also really love those extreme sports, so I will definitely be keeping an eye on Red Gerard. Keep your eyes peeled on WKYC.com. Follow my Twitter as well, _Stephanie Haney, because I will definitely be tweeting out when we can expect to see Red competing so that we can all watch that and we can all talk about it. And we can, depending on the hour, I'm not sure exactly what the hour is off the top of my head right now that he will be doing the slope style snowboarding, but maybe we can live tweet it and we can all watch and cheer him on together. All right, that's it for your 3 Things to Know podcast this week. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being a part of the conversation with Katie. Again, absolutely incredible. Can't thank her enough for coming on the podcast. If you haven't yet and you enjoyed this podcast, I would love it if you subscribe and leave a rating and a review. That really does help us connect with more people here in Northeast Ohio so that we can just make our circle bigger, right? And if there's something that you want to talk about, if there's somebody here in Northeast Ohio that you think is very particular interesting, piquing your interest, and you'd love to see if we can't get them on as an interview guest, or maybe a great social media account that you're following here in Northeast Ohio, or maybe there's some place or event or hidden gem or particular favorite item of yours that you think should be highlighted as something that people need to know in NEO, please do let me know. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. I really appreciate you, and I will see you back here next week with more 3 Things to Know.
Thanks for listening to 3 Things to Know with Stephanie Haney from WKYC Studios. Subscribe now to stay in the know.